I think one of the really interesting things is this idea of the earth bringing forth seed, which is obviously what Genesis actually says, but it really struck me as kind of odd. I don't know if you have any kind of thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, it's very fascinating to realize that there's a relationship in creation, right? There's this back and forth in creation between, in some ways, heaven giving major identities or giving commands, but then it's not as if God creates every single thing individually. And this is like, I mean, you would say, okay, but this is important because of how we actually experience the world, which is that we see that there are these categories of being, but we see that in them there's all this variety, and there's actually indefinite amount of variety. So when you read the scripture and God says to the earth, produce plants with seed in them, you think, oh, he's not telling the earth like this type of plant, this type of plant.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
giving
yeah,
a
yeah.
big category, and then he's saying now produce variety among that. And the only rule that he gives is that this variety has to have seed in it. That is, every variety that you produce has to be able to reproduce itself. And that's so basically it's about identity and about, clear identity that has life and can continue its own identity.
One of the things that I thought of when you said that was, okay, so what does this say about when we create things that can't reproduce themselves? Like what's the whether like biologically, like when you create, a hybrid that isn't capable of reproduction
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
even
it says it's interesting because hybrids that can't reproduce are usually produced for a kind of power, a specific power.
mm,
And this is so you can imagine that they're closer to the earth, right? They're more made out of potential, and that's why they don't have life in themselves. They can't really continue they're almost too much of a trade-in between meaning and power. And power is too strong. So like a mule, for example, it's
yeah.
like it's too it's bred for us to be very powerful and strong and be able to do certain things, but it doesn't have enough meaning in it for it to be able to continue
Mm,
on its own.
yeah. I want to think more about what are the implications to uh because I mean, I don't know, you can apply that to like hybrid religions and hybrid
Yeah.
thought systems, and obviously
Apply it to plastic.
yeah, right.
Plastic doesn't
Yeah.
occur in nature. Like, you have to make plastic, and you make it for a very powerful
Yeah.
purpose, but you can't mine plastic. You can't find it in the earth. It's not naturally occurring. So it's an artificial creation that is very powerful, but then it has certain qualities, which is that plastic is brittle. Like plastic, it tends to move towards, it doesn't disappear, but it tends to fragment and tends to move towards a kind of to decompose into. That's why we have microplastic in our brains. But there are plenty of examples of
Among
this type of
other
these
places,
materials.
Jonathan.
Yes, I do. I was going to say the other place. Have you went straight there?
Oh man, listen, somebody was going to say it in the comments,
That's
but
right, for sure.
yeah, yeah. All right, so the fourth day, God made the sun and the moon and the stars, and as soon as
One last
he,
thing about
oh
that,
yeah,
though.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
want to say one last thing. Isn't it interesting that by making sterile things, we might be making ourselves sterile? I mean, don't you find it just fascinating?
yeah, like yeah,
Like by being obsessed with power and the power that these materials produce, we might be making ourselves sterile. I mean, that is seriously symbolism happens.
you know, I think that I mean it's worth actually kind of pausing on this for a moment because this is obviously the creation of sterile systems is one of the main goals of modernity.
Yeah.
Because life kind of gets away from you. Like life gets a little out of control, right? And this there was a obviously there are a lot of things you can apply this to. I always think about the iconoclasm that happened during the Reformation, where it's like, oh, the churches are too cluttered and there's too much chaos and people are just sort of like doing their own devotions off here in the corner of the cathedral, and we want them all focused on the one thing together, right? And so we purge everything. We paint the church walls white. Ulrich Zwingli says, how wonderfully white the churches all now. But also the creation of and it seems like especially kind of the the scientific community and modernity, like in Lewis's day, like in the time of the Inklings, was hyper focused on this idea. And Lewis really kind of plays with this in That Hideous Strength, right? Where the scientists, their peak version of humanity, right, is the sort of like, we're going to eliminate biological reproduction,
Yeah.
right? And that actually fornication and sexual depravity are aimed at ultimately obliterating the sex act altogether, right? And you
Yeah.
can definitely see that happening.
It's happening before
And
our very
like
eyes.
right now, right? When people say something like, yeah, Gen Z is having less sex than any of previous generation, it is not because they're chaste, guys. That's
No.
not why it's happening. Um, it is, you know, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just like, man, if you just want an example of demons existing, like, I don't, you know, this whole sort of like, yeah, you've got something happening at the biological level. Maybe it's the microplastics or who knows, but then also things happening at the cultural level. And
Yeah.
like, what are all the devices that we're using to watch the porn made out of? And it's just like, whew, I'm sounding a little crazy in the video today. I realize that. Um, but the crazy stuff is yet to come, guys. So just buckle up.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that, yeah, that it's the whole system is a system of infertility. Ultimately, why? Well, the you know, it's this idea that if we can get rid of the fertility, you know, we're going to maximize our power, we're going to maximize our
Yeah.
control, and we are going to, you know, be able to kind of get rid of all these sort of messy things that annoy us, you know, like toddlers or you know, behavior that we don't want from certain people or certain, you know, obviously 20th century, lots of famous examples of eugenics that people were trying more or less willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it would be just like, oh, there's this one group of people that we just want to get rid of them, you know, let's target their ability to reproduce, right? So yeah, whew, all right. I don't know.
The earth produces
Gonna,
seed
it's
because
going to
they're
be hard to recover from this. Okay, so oh boy.